short of socialism, you have social democracy. That's an option because it still keeps capitalism alive. And you need to have capitalism, again, as I said before, to have human rights and human freedom. But you won't see that on these YouTube garbage videos, this nonsense that portrays itself as the truth and gives you the impression that, oh yeah, we've got the answer, it's this new world order and everything. Well, let me tell you about the new world order, and let me tell you about people like David Rockefeller and so forth. Sure, obviously the richest people in the world would like a one world government, but under their control. No doubt about that, of course. But they don't want it to be a communist government. They don't want it to be run necessarily by the United Nations, even though they might, you know, seem to head in that direction. And the United Nations, by the way, again, it's a terribly misunderstood organization by most people because people don't educate themselves about what it really means. It's more or less a forum where people of different countries who represent those countries can debate and argue about issues and conflict and so forth and try to prevent conflict, supposedly. And for the most part, the United Nations, as again, is a benign and sort of neutral organization. There are different interest groups in the United Nations that try to sway it one way or the other and try to influence its decisions, and I won't get into that because that's complicated. But I can assure you, the New World Order is not about the United Nations, it's not about communism. It's about rich people who want to have an end to nationalism. Well, let me tell you something. Eventually, humankind is going to end nationalism, no matter what. But the question is, which way? For the benefit of a wealthy elite few, or for the entirety of humanity? The wealthy and the middle class and the poor, everybody. If we have a world order that helps everybody, that's great. Then that's the right thing to do. But if we have a new world order that subjugates other countries and other countries are on top, and certain people are on top of those countries and they run everything and they make our lives miserable and destroy human life and destroy the environment, that's not a good idea. So I think when you watch these YouTube videos about different conspiracies, you must think to yourself, who is behind this particular YouTube video? What is their agenda? What are they trying to accomplish? Now, I can assure you, though that's probably impossible to do that effectively, you're going to probably start thinking that I'm having my own agenda that I'm not, revealing to you. But I can assure you, my only agenda would be to live in a world where you have unity and diversity, nonviolent unity and diversity, people of all types, of all backgrounds, religions, ethnic groups, whatever. As long as nobody tries to impose on anybody else by force, by unethical, illegal means, by violent means, as long as nobody tries to enforce their personal convictions, their way on others, I'm all for a world which is diverse and unified in that way. Obviously, a unity in diversity country or world cannot be a world or a country in which we allow a minority to say that they are going to destroy that very principle of unity and diversity by any means necessary. Well, we can't allow that. But the question is, who gets to decide? Who are the ones who truly are respectful of unity and diversity and who are not? It's a very good question. And I think there are many ways to solve that problem. Obviously, you need to have much more involvement on the part of everyday citizens in the workings of their own governments as well as in the workings of a larger world government, if that should ever come to be. And I think it's very possible. I mean, in reality, big business isn't itself the enemy. Big business, some of it has been the enemy, quite a bit of it. But there's a lot of big business also that works towards actually trying to have stability in the world and security in a positive way. And there's a lot of big business that does the opposite. And if it wasn't that way, we'd already have a lot worse situation than we have now. We have a pretty bad situation in the world today, and that's no thanks to all kinds of crazy extremists who, for example, watch YouTube conspiracy theory videos, and then they're absolutely certain, without thinking it over, without doing their research, scientific and cautious research, without really thinking about what's involved here, they jump to the assumption, oh, this is the conspiracy theory that's right, they've got to be right, and I've got to do something about it. Well, let me tell you, don't watch anything on YouTube and then say, okay, I've got it, that's the way it is, and I'm now going to go and do something about it. No. Do your own research. Think it over. Think who profits and who's involved. Obviously, big business has a lot of, what we call bad guys in it. I don't like to call them bad guys. I think they're just idiots who don't know anything about life and are unethical people, and they do bad things. But I think that a lot of them think that they're good guys, and I think they're wrong. But also some very rich people are very good people. I can tell you that. Now, that may sound incredible to you, but yes, there are some people who are very wealthy who are relatively good people. Will I say it's Bill Gates or George Soros? No. Because, to be quite honest, those are controversial figures in themselves. Bill Gates and George Soros are both very controversial figures. I've never met Bill Gates. I know George Soros somewhat more personally than obviously most people would. So what can I say about people like them? Well, they're complex people. They have some ups and downs, some positives, some negatives. Take and give a little. But having lived amongst the wealthiest people in the world in New York City and elsewhere, and having seen how they think and function, I can tell you that amongst those people there are people with truly good intentions. Oh, is David Rockefeller one of the so-called bad guys with bad intentions? Again, I'm not going to pass judgment. I think David Rockefeller belongs to a group of people who think that they have the right to decide for the rest of us everything and have a certain agenda. Now, some of their agenda is quite honorable, but a lot of it is questionable and some of it is not honorable, and it's obvious because we would have had world peace by now. I mean, that's the big question. If any of these really rich guys out there are really good, how come they're not making an effort to inform us about what's really going on? Well, because, the minute you try to inform anyone about anything, the minute you go out there, like I'm doing right now, and start talking to people on YouTube, people are going to say, he's full of it, he's full of garbage, he's a liar, oh, he's working for so-and-so, oh, he must be this or that ethnicity, that religion, blah, 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 therefore you can't trust him, he's got an agenda. Well, that's the problem, the sad truth of it is that what I'm doing right now will probably have very little effect, if anything. But I'm just hoping that if you watch this, and you listen to what I'm saying, and instead of believing in garbage that says that, these big businessmen are out for a new world order that's communistic and against capitalism, against human freedom, then you've got it all wrong. They're obviously ultimately interested in pretending something so that they can profit from it and creating false systems. That's true, but not necessarily a communist system. And if they wanted to do that, they wouldn't succeed. The fact of the matter is that there's a lot of competing interests in the world, and it's very complex. The world is a very complex place, and one must be very, very careful about the conclusions, the final conclusions that one makes about the way the world is. I personally think the world is in grave danger. Environmentally, I think Al Gore for the most part is right. Yes, some of what he says is not entirely strictly according to science, but then again, science is controversial too. The fact of the matter is there is global climate change, and some of it is man-made and some of it's cyclical, and it's a very elaborate and complex issue of what causes these changes that are very abrupt. But we have evidence now that there's a lot of change going on, and some of it is definitely man-made, and it's the amount that's man-made that might be the tipping point.